Okay, as with the other religious traditions that we've seen, Hinduism has inspired art that spans a wide variety of expressions. So tonight, we're going to look at temple architecture, sculpture, and painting. It spans several millennium. So I think in a previous class, I went over a little bit about a Hindu temple. It's known as a mandir. So what you have on the left is a diagram, and I'm going to show you separate parts of that temple. And so let's look at the main components. So the first, there's what's known as the shikara. Okay, that's the spire on the right, often sometimes referred to as the mountain peak. Mountains are very significant religiously because mountains are generally high, close to. So you see it on the can you see on the diagram where that is? It's to the left. So that's the shikara. It's a most prominent, visible part of the temple for most temples. The mandapa, I think you can see on the diagram. It's in the middle, pointing to it. Yeah, I think it's in the middle. I would get up, but I might not get back down. So the mandapa is a hall or a pavilion. This is where a lot of the public rituals are held in the temple. Then there's what's known as the garbhagira. And that's on green. It says on green, I think it's on green on the diagram. This is the inner sanctum. This is where you'll find the image. Every temple has one main image. They'll usually have lots of different images on the outside, but in this inner sanctum, there'll be one main image. It's known as a murti, and that's who the temple is dedicated to. And it'll generally stand behind an altar, like in that photograph there. Right outside the inner sanctum, you generally find these guys. They're known as vahanas, or vehicles. Every deity has its own vehicle that it rides on. Vishnu here has an eagle. The bull on the left is Shiva's bull. And on the right, that's Ganesh, the elephant, the rat. So they all have their vehicles or vahanas that they travel on. There's usually a number of outer chambers. Here's one called the Chatambalam. I don't know that that's on the diagram, but these temple complexes, when we get to the big one, are really large. They'd be as large as the entire campus here, including all the parking lot, etc. And they'll have your main temple with your main inner sanctum, but then all sorts of smaller shrines and areas. So this is one of those areas. It's known as a chambalam. Big temples will also have what is known as a pushkarini. It's a bathing pool. Now this isn't for swimming or for relaxation. This is ritualistic. You generally go into this pool before you enter the temple. You don't have to go in completely. Most people just touch the water, and then so it's an act of purification before going into a temple. Yeah, you dry off. Yeah. So there are a number of symbols often related to a Hindu temple. On the top of the shikara, you'll always find a flag, generally red or orange. Remember in Islam we found green as the basic color, red or orange. Then you'll have bells. What are the bells for, do you think? To wake these guys up. Before you go into the inner sanctum, the bells will be out there and you boom, because they need their rest time as well. So there are bells. And then can you see what's on the right-hand side? It's a swastika. Yeah, I always put this up because it's a very ancient Aryan symbol of peace. Oh yeah, it goes way, way back. I'll show you when we get to some of the sculpture an example that goes back 3,000 years, at least. Hitler took this symbol, put it on tilted it, and made it the swastika, which we generally don't associate with peace. Yeah. But if you go to India and you go to Buddhist temples and you go to Hindu temples, you'll see these swastikas. Just know what they are. They're not the Nazi sign. They're symbols of peace. Many temples, or most temples, are either situated on a hill or near water. Okay, mountain temples or temples near the major rivers. That's because rivers are sacred, mountains are sacred, and this is generally where you'll have your sacred spots for worship. So Hindu temples with an architectural tradition that has left surviving examples goes back to the Gupta Empire, 6th and 5th century CE. We still have a few standing temples from this period. I'm going to just show you two. They're not your large complexes. They're smaller temples. For example, this one. It's known as the Dash Avatar Temple. Dash means 10. Avatars are the incarnations of Vishnu, like Krishna's an avatar, Rama's an avatar. So this is a temple to the 10 avatars. And it dates back to the 6th century CE. So it's not much in use, actually, but it is still standing. And it has some magnificent sculpture associated with it. I think, is this Ganesha, Kent? Is that the elephant-headed god? So is that Ganesh? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, here he is here too. Yeah, it's an elephant head on a man's body. Ganesh is the son of Shiva. And I'll have something more to say about that in a moment. This is Vishnu. Now I'm going to show you a close-up in a moment of this. But what he's doing, he's lying on a snake. And this is a symbol of creation. Because in Hindu mythology, one of the creation myths tells of Vishnu lying on a snake, and then he's asleep for millions of years. There's nothing. Then he wakes up. Out of his belly button comes a lotus. You remember this one? Out of his lotus, a minor god who then creates the universe, which lasts for millions of years. Then it goes back. Then what happens? It starts over. Boom, boom. So Hindu cosmology told of numerous creations. We're just one of many hundreds of thousands of creations. Here's a close-up.
Looks like he has a retinue of helpers.
Yes, he has a retinue of various minor deities around him. All the major gods have their what would we call it today? Their groupies? Yeah, sacred groupies. Yeah.
My people that will call your people.
This is another temple, which is located, is that one near Sanchi, does it say? Yeah. It's another temple from this period. So these are the oldest remains of temples that we have in India today, 5th and 6th century. We think something's old here if it goes back, what, a couple centuries? These go back to the 5th and 6th century. Okay, these are some of the smaller. I wanted to show you some of the major Hindu temples, some magnificent works of art. Oh, this is a close-up of that temple. See, very small.
There's stone.
Okay, yeah, stone. Mainly sandstone, sometimes basalt. So this is one of the most famous temples in all of India, especially northern India. It's known as the Kashi Vishwanath Temple. It's in the city of Varanasi, which is the sacred city of Hinduism. This is where the Ganges come through, and you see the pyres where people go to be cremated and then put in the river. This is Varanasi. It's dedicated to Shiva. So that's why it's called the Kashi Vishwanath Temple to Shiva. It's one of the what's known as the Jyotirlinga temples. It has a Shiva lingam in it, and I'll get there in a moment. This means the radiant sign of the Almighty Shiva. This is Shiva here dancing. I'll get to that when we get to the standing sculpture. And Vishwanath means ruler of the universe. So this is a major, long-standing temple. It's been destroyed, reconstructed a number of times. It was demolished by a Mughal emperor, a Muslim emperor. And what did he do once he demolished it? What did he build on its site? A mosque. This has caused a lot of tension in India between Hindus and Muslims, sacred sites that have been built upon. So this was, but it's, millions of pilgrims visit this site every year. Millions. It's constantly filled with pilgrims from all over India. The current structure was built in 1780, but the original goes back much further than that. But it was destroyed. It contains more than just the shrine to Vishnu. These major temples have shrines about all the other gods. To Shiva. The one on the left in red is that Ganesh? Yeah, it's Ganesh, the elephant-headed god. So here he is here, in the wooden statue. The story is that, in the myth, that Shiva cut off his head, thinking he was an intruder into the household. And Parvati, his wife, was not happy. So she said, put a head back on. So Shiva looked around, and the closest thing was an elephant. So he put the elephant head on. But in India, the elephant stands for wisdom. So it's a symbol of wisdom. So we'll see. Ganesh, as a deity, is associated with wisdom. Do you see what that other shrine is to? We've had a number of these. It's a footprint. Remember how we've seen various gods in different religions, the footprint? I think last week we saw Buddha's footprint. This is Shiva's footprint. Like I said, it tends to probably symbolize that's the point where the sacred and the earth meet at the foot. This is the lingam. It's called the Shiva lingam. It's a phallic symbol. It's the symbol of creation. And it's in this silver basin, and it's adorned in with different flowers, different colors. This is what people come to worship. Okay? It's a phallic symbol, but it represents the creative power of Shiva. Because Shiva both creates and destroys. In fact, creation and destruction go hand in hand. When something is destroyed, creation will follow. And creation always leads to destruction eventually. So it's that cycle of creation and destruction. I put prime worshiper here. Does anyone recognize who the man in white is? Late night TV. It's the Prime Minister of India, Modi. Modi. He represents that state in Parliament, and he's the Prime Minister.
I don't remember other pictures with a beard. I remember he was white-haired.
Yeah, he has a beard, generally, yeah. Okay, the next temple, which is a very famous one, is known as the Dakshineshvar, which the Dakshineshvar Kali-Ghat temple. See Kali? Kali. It's a temple to Kali. It's in Calcutta, or Kolkata as it's now known. It's dedicated to Kali, who was Shiva's consort. All the male gods have wives, consorts. Kali is one, well, it gets a little complex. Parvati is his wife, but Parvati can change into Kali and be, well, here she is. Well, she's the goddess of destruction. She's the goddess of destruction. Shiva is often also related to destruction. This temple was originally built in the 12th century, but it has been destroyed a couple of times and rebuilt. You can see they're large complexes. That's the courtyard, and all of those others, those will be smaller shrines to other gods. The temple really became famous because Ramakrishna, one of the 19th century saints, was a priest in that temple, I think between 1855 and 1886. We have a temple to Ramakrishna not far from us, in Montecito. Yeah, if you go up the top of Sheffield, you get off Sheffield and you go up, and it's magnificent. It's a small temple. You wouldn't. It looks very Japanese, actually, in its. But the Krishnamurti Center is in Ojai. There's also the Theosophical Society at Crotona. Yeah, there are a number of Indian-related movements in both Ojai and Santa Barbara. So this was Ramakrishna. And this is inside the temple, and that's Ma Kali. Notice the big tongue. That's her tongue. Yeah, yeah. People say, what's that all about? Her tongue lulls up time. So if you're lulling up time, what are you doing? It's death. It's death. So she symbolizes death. Now, she symbolizes death in a very positive sense. She symbolizes death as a release from samsara. She can help release you from all the desires and attachments of the world. And she is the consort of Shiva. Very famous statue there in Calcutta. The Dwarkadesh temple is in Gujarat. Can you see on the map where Gujarat is on the coast? Is it towards the ocean? I wish this thing pointed up there, but it doesn't. In any case, Gujarat's a state on the western coast of India. This is known as the Dwarka is the name of the city of Dwarka, and Dwarkadish means king of Dwarka. So this temple is dedicated to Krishna. Krishna. If you've ever seen, I didn't bring my statue of Krishna because I was getting loaded down here. If you've ever seen the flute playing, God, that's Krishna. Okay, that's Krishna. And like I said, Dwarkadesh literally means king of Dwarka. Exact date is not known, but it's probably 15th, 16th century. According to tradition, it was built, and this is mythology, by Krishna's grandson. Not, not historically accurate. But what people believe is just probably as true as what important as what actually are. Okay, so it's 5-storied, 72 pillars. Its spire, the shikara, raises 256 feet above the ground. The flag hoisted over the shikara usually shows the sun and the moon, which is believed to indicate that Krishna would remain at the temple until the end of time. So Krishna is in that temple in the form of an image. And it has magnificent wall carvings, all sculptured. This is one of the doors leading into it. It's called the moksha door. Moksha means liberation. It's an equivalent of heaven. This is the heaven door. And there on the left is a statue of Krishna. You'll often see him in black, if not dark blue. The word Krishna actually means black. And next to him is his brother, Balram. Now here is a set of magnificent temples. These are known as the Khajuraho Temple Complex. They're 100 miles southeast of the city of Jhansi, can you see that on the map, Jhansi? They're UNESCO World Heritage Site. They're famous for their architectural symbolism and some of them for their erotic sculpture. I'll show you a couple examples later. I'll warn you in case you don't want to look at them. You can look down. But Chris said, you probably shouldn't show this at church. But I'll explain.
Three structures, is there one that's a hierarchy than the other?
This is a whole series of 25 temples. 25 separate temples. It's originally had 85. Dates back to the 12th century. There were Hindu temples. There were Buddhist temples at this spot. There were also Jain temples, the Jain religion. So 25 have survived. They're spread over 2.5 square miles. So it's a large area. I'll just show you some of the individual ones. They didn't have machinery, to build these. These are hand carved.
So monks maintain these?
What's that, monks? The state actually maintains these now, yeah, the state of India, the Archaeological Society. So like I said, they're known for their temple sculpture. Again, that's all hand chiseled on the walls of those temples. Okay, now the next two, I think, are going to be erotic. So if you don't want to look, don't look. Let me just say something before I show them to you. First of all, Christian missionaries thought this was terrible. They thought it was terrible. Two things to say about it. In Hinduism, a certain stage of life, the sexual life is normal. It's accepted. You don't have anything against it. When you get to the later stages, you want to give that up, mainly because you have to. But when you're a householder, it's accepted part of life, enjoyment, pleasure, there's nothing wrong with that. That's one interpretation. The other is that it's a more religious interpretation, and that is the divine and the sacred coming together in unity. Don't try these poses. So those are the, have you heard of the Kama Sutra? Okay, this is Kama. This is a, Kama Sutra is a manual, it's a sexual manual. Again, to be used within the marriage situation. And sometimes it's important to recognize that for Hindus, the sexual life, the life of pleasure is acceptable as long as it's only for a certain period. You don't want to be doing this into your late 70s and 80s because by that time you should be tired of this. You should be looking for release from all of this. Because even though this might be pleasurable, it's what? It's not lasting. It's a lot of work, yeah, but it's not lasting. Okay. Now, South India is really known for some of its temples, especially the work on the outer part. Very colorful. This is the Sri Raghunath Swami Temple complex, located in Tamil Nadu, which is about 200 miles southwest of Madras, which is on the coast there. Can you see where it's called Chennai now? The old city was called Madras by the British. It's dedicated to this god. This is Vishnu. This is Vishnu in a certain form. This is the lying down Vishnu, not the creative Vishnu with the snake around him. This is the resting form of Vishnu when he's relaxing. And it's supposed to mean that when he's in this form, he's very much open to listening to his devotees' problems. So this is a temple where people go when they have anxieties, when they have worries, when they've lost things. They will go and worship Vishnu. And Vishnu will hopefully hear their prayers and answer them. The temple occupies 155 acres, 81 shrines, 21 towers, 39 pavilions. Yep.
This dates how far back?
These go back to about 16th century. Now, a lot of them have been remodeled, or yeah. The state puts a lot of money into these in combination with the priestly families that own them.
And the grounds around them.
And they take care of those, yeah. Because these are, not only are they big sites for worshipers, they're big sites for tourism. Yeah.
The color seems to be very prominent part of the display.
In South India especially, the color. You notice the ones we saw in North India, you didn't see a lot of color. In South India, you get these very colorful temples.
Is there some significance to color?
No, I just think it's decorative, and it was part of the South Indian tradition is the decorative form of art.
Yes. Ooh, that's a little more unified color. In art nature. You know, some of the cathedrals in Europe, they talk about it took 500 years to build it
Yeah.
before things were destroyed originally. Were they something that took
Yeah, these took hundreds of years.
hundreds of
Yeah.
years?
They were acts of devotion.
Yes.
This is known as the Uchi-Pilyar Temple. It's dedicated to Ganesh, the elephant-headed god. You may recall, I told you the story about his elephant head. It's located atop what is known as Rock Fort. See, it's on the top of, that's Rock Fort in the state of Tamil Nadu. According to legend, Ganesh established an image of Vishnu in a nearby temple, and then he was chased away by a demon, and he came to Rock Fort, and this is where he resided, and the temple was dedicated to him. can see him on the left and in the middle. And there's the main image in the temple. Notice the three horizontal lines. The horizontal lines are the lines of Shiva. If you see holy men in India with horizontal lines, that means they're worshiping Shiva. If you see them with vertical lines, they're worshiping Vishnu. Then there's the final temple we're gonna look at is the Virupaksha temple, dedicated to Virupaksha Shiva. Virupaksha Shiva, situated on the banks of a river in Karnataka. Shiva Virupaksha means Shiva with the terrible eye. Sometimes we call it the third eye. It's the eye here on the forehead. This is the eye that looks inward. I think, did we talk about this last time with Buddhism as well? The eye that looks inward rather than outward. And it's the sign of the oneness of the divine. It's only when you look inward can you see the unity of everything. When you look outward, what do you see? Variety, multiplicity. It's when you look inward with your mind that you see the connectedness of all things. So that's why Shiva has the third eye. It symbolically says, without you, the entire universe is endowed with multiple viewpoints, fragmented. Only you, Shiva Master, possess the completely unified vision. The temple was built in the 7th century. It's undergone numerous additions. It's now a World Heritage Site. It's known for its gopuram, this massive structure. It's the entry to the temple. That's the courtyard. And that's the purification pond. The mandapa, remember the mandapa? The pillared hall. And inside it, you will find, it's hard to see, but that's the ceiling. You see the ceiling on the left. I've tried to get a close-up on the right. Various images of the god.
Is that painted? I mean, it's carved and
It's carved, yeah, carved and painted. Okay, so those are temples. Let's move now to just standing sculpture. We've seen some sculpture on the temple walls, but we'll focus now on sort of a historical survey. The first known sculpture in the subcontinent comes from what is known as the Indus Valley Civilization, 3300 BCE, in the northwest of what is today Pakistan. This civilization was covered over for centuries, and British archaeologists happened to come across it when they were building a railroad. And they were digging up the area, and they came across, and they just kept digging, and they found an entire city. An entire city. Sort of like, you know, how Troy, the story of Troy was buried for centuries. Similar in this Indus civilization. And we now know that this civilization traded with Egypt and with Mesopotamia. These are what are known as the Indus Valley seals. Seals like that you would stamp a seal. They're small, but these are some of the earliest examples of sculpture. These small seals. They were often used put on merchandise that was shipped. So they would, and then they were also. But do you notice at the bottom right? 3300 BCE, swastika.
And a cross in the middle.
Yep.
the cross in the middle and an elephant at
Here's one of an Indus Valley priest. The bull. Terracotta bull. And this is one of the most famous pieces, the Dancing Girl, brass. Now this next one is really interesting. It's called the Proto-Shiva. What is a prototype? Yeah, before, something that comes before, right? This seal, which was found in Indus Valley, which dates 3000 BCE, may well be sort of the origin of the god Shiva. Okay? He's sitting in a position which is very similar, a meditative position. He's got horns. So this is called the Proto-Shiva. Archaeologists suggest this was the origin of the god Shiva. So what's interesting, it was non-Aryan, because the Aryans come in at about 2000 BC, overrun the Indus civilization. We know that because we found skulls, cracked skulls. But anyway, this is the Proto-Shiva. Okay, I want to now move to some cave sculpture, rock sculpture, which is some of the best in the world. These are the Udagiri caves. There are 20 caves in the Madhya Pradesh, which is in central India there. You can see the map. Primarily devoted to the gods Vishnu and Shiva. A lot of these are basalt, and so these are chiseled out of the sides of the mountain. And like we saw Buddhist examples last time where you have monasteries and halls of worship, similar for Hinduism. This is one of Vishnu again. Can you see on the right, what kind of head does he have? It's a boar, a B-O-A-R. This is one of Vishnu's avatars. He had 10 avatars. Sometimes they took animal form. This is the boar form, and it was worshipped at this temple. Then there are the Ellora caves. These are very, very famous caves, with inscriptions dating from the 6th century onwards. They're located in the Aurangabad district of Maharashtra. Again, you can see it on the map there. There are over 100 caves, all excavated from basalt cliffs. Consists of 17 Hindu caves that we have excavated, 12 Buddhist, and 5 Jain. So it's another example of these religions living side by side. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This is one of the major temples in the cave. You get to see the people there, so you get the feeling of the size. This is dancing Shiva, Shiva Nataraj over here. I'll talk a little bit more about him later. This is the goddess Ganga, for which the Ganges is named. And this is an interesting one. This is the text of the Hindu epic, the Ramayana, in sculpture. It stretches much, the original stretched much further. This is what remains. So imagine taking a chapter of some famous piece of literature, and rather than writing it out, carving it out with the various images. It's the Ramayana, the story of Rama This is an interesting one. Ravana was a demon. This is Ravana lifting Mount Kailasa. Can you see the little guy at the bottom doing a shoulder press? Do you see sitting on top are the goddess and god, Shiva and Parvati, and Kailasa is his mountain home. Ravana is trying to destroy it by lifting it up so it will crash. Demons do those sorts of things. Demons. But you can't destroy Shiva, so Shiva will push him down where he's kept captive for, I believe, 1,500 years, and then he's eventually let go once he learns his lesson. These are very famous caves just outside of Mumbai. If you ever go to Mumbai, make sure you go to the Elephanta Caves. Again, they're a UNESCO World Heritage Site. They're on Elephanta Island, 6.5 miles east of Mumbai. So you take a boat out there. Consists of 5 Hindu caves and 2 Buddhist caves. And it's very famous for its sculpture, especially this one. This is known as the Trimurti, the Hindu Trinity, with the heads looking in 3 different directions: Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma. Unfortunately, most of the sculpture in this cave is fairly dilapidated. It wasn't taken care of for a long period of time. This is known as the Yogeshvara. It's Shiva in meditation. He's sitting lotus, although his legs are missing here, and his arms as well. But the statue's really dilapidated. The marriage of Shiva and Parvati. This is an interesting one. Can anyone see what's going on here? Well, look at the chest.
That's a female?
Half female, half male. It's Shiva in his Ardhani form. Half male, half female. Because although the gods are often represented as male and female, they can't be limited. So this is a very famous statue where he's half. You can see the breast as it on the left side, the female, and on the right, yeah. Okay, and this is the Shiva Lingam. Remember, the lingam is the phallic symbol. We saw it at the temple in Varanasi. So these caves were areas of worship. This is where people came to worship. And caves are dark. Okay. You ever notice cathedrals are sort of like caves? They're not meant to be. You're supposed to be in a different space. You're not in a worldly space. You're in a sacred space. Okay, I want to look at some freestanding sculpture. And this is the first famous one. It is known as the Nataraj. Natya means dance. Raj means king, king of the dance. When Shiva dances, the universe is destroyed. You can notice on this one and also on the one up here, the outer ring has flames. That's the world of samsara. Constantly burning up. Burning up. Shiva's in the center. He's solid. When he dances, the world is destroyed, but he is not. So the deity always remains at the center. The worlds come and go. And in Hindu cosmology, like I said, there have been numerous creations. There's not just one. Worlds come and go, just like lives come and go. But they're always centered in that deity. So this is the famous Shiv Nataraj. And here you can see just some historical examples. Different forms of the same image. Then there's the Sheshayi Vishnu. This is the one I mentioned, where Vishnu is lying on the snake, and then creation takes place when he wakes up. There's just couple. They're a little hard to see. They're dark, but they're in wood. They're wooden sculptures of this image. And then there's this lady, Ma Kali. Doesn't she look enticing? Notice she has skulls around her neck. She has a sword. She has two functions in the mythology. One, she helps fight demons. So she can help you get rid of your demons, whatever they might be. But on a more profound level, what she's killing is your ego. Your ego is what holds you back from enlightenment, from realization, from moksha, whatever the term is. So her function, although she looks vicious and terrible, she's really the one that can liberate you. Which really speaks about death, right? People are often very fearful of death. The notion in Hinduism is death is the great liberator. Death is the great liberator. So here we have some various historical examples. Now, why is she standing on Shiva?
She looks like she won.
Well, there's a myth. All these, there's myths that explain all these things. One day, Kali was out fighting demons, and she got in a rage. And her rage could not be controlled. She was just killing demons right and left, and Shiva was afraid if she wasn't controlled, that somehow she would do damage to other than demons. So he comes and lays down in front of her and allows her to step on him, and this calms her down. Now, I don't know what, you can take this all sorts of ways as to what this might mean in terms of male-female ideas in Indian society. But in any case, this is a famous statue. You'll often see her standing on on Shiva, the prone god. And then there's Ganesh. Everyone loves Ganesh. Very, very popular in South India, where he's called Ganapati. He's, like I said, he's the son of Shiva and Parvati. He has the elephant head. He's thought to bring good luck. So if you're starting a business, for example, you'll often go to the temple and worship Ganesh, or have an image of him in your business. Students will often go before exams. Okay, so yeah, he's one of the most popular gods in South India. And here you can see various examples of his image. Okay, I want to move to some painting, and this will be our last genre. And Some of the oldest paintings go back to these Bimbeta rock shelters. They're located about 28 miles southeast of Bhopal. Again, they're UNESCO World Heritage Sites. They consist of 7 hills, 750 rock shelters distributed over about 6 miles. Some of the stone rock paintings go back to 10,000 years old. The Ellora caves, which we saw for sculpture, they also have paintings. Most of the paintings, as you can imagine, over time have really dilapidated, but they try and restore some of them as best they can. And then there are miniature paintings. Remember we saw when we looked at Islam, we saw the influence of the Persian miniature. Well, how did Persian miniatures come to influence Indian painting? The Mughal Empire. The Mughals were Muslim. They had come from Turkish tribes, came down into India, were able to establish an empire, and brought a lot of Persian culture with them. So we have whole schools of miniature paintings. And of course, in Hinduism, there's no restriction about showing the human form. So a lot of wonderful examples. I think on the left is Lakshmi. Lakshmi is one of Vishnu's consorts. Can you see who's at her feet? It's a monkey. His name is Hanuman, the monkey god. He was a god who helped Rama when Rama captured Sita. He's also the god of weightlifters. I remember went into a gym in Delhi when I was capable of lifting weights years ago, and there was a big statue in the corner of Hanuman with all sorts of flowers around him and incense. And all the lifters, before they started lifting, would go up and make an offering to Hanuman. It's the god of strength. On the right is Krishna and his favorite lady, Radha, who's actually the female divine side of Krishna. Radha, they find out you'll find Krishna and Radha are worshipped together. Blue is, Krishna is always blue or black. You always tell who he is. This is a school of painting known as the Patachitra paintings. On the left, I think you can see Lakshmi again. You often see Lakshmi because she'll have a lotus. You have a lotus. On the right, you see Krishna and all the gopis. These were the female cowherds that he danced with. You may remember me telling you stories about that. The gopi represents the individual soul. Krishna is the god. The soul wants to dance with God. This is an artistic expression of that. Then there are the Kalighat paintings that initiated in about the 18th century around the Kalighat temple. These are various images of Kali. Notice her tongue on the left. In the center, she looks much more benign, right? That's when she's okay. Yeah. Now we're moving into the modern period. This was called the Bengal School of Art. This was influenced by the British. Can you see this is a little different? You can see European style coming in here. Again, in the center, it's Krishna and Radha, but 20th century, 19th, 20th century, yeah, we're getting... And I just want to finish up with 3 what are known as folk art genres. This is the Madhurani folk art. I think I have some notes. A lot more what? Yeah, well, they're not done by professional artists. Most of these are done by women. They were from the state of Bihar, painted on cloth, and they were put up on your hut. These are interior decorating, sort of. Yeah.
There's the blue guy.
Yep, the blue guy. Krishna's, if you see the blue guy, it's Krishna.
Vegas.
This is called the Kalamkari folk art. Kalam means pen. So you can see this is very fine pen, freehand drawing. Pen and ink. And then colored in. It flourished in temples, on scrolls, temple hangings. Only natural dyes are used in these paintings. And then the last one is known as the Tanjore folk art. Originated in the 16th, 17th centuries in southern India. These are made on wooden planks. They're painted on wood. They depict devotion to various gods and goddesses. Rich and vivid colors, and often use precious and semi-precious gems and stones are incorporated into those. Yeah, and gold leaf. Okay, that brings us to the end of religious art for the 4 weeks that we've had. Any thoughts, questions? Yeah, I think the reason I wanted to have this class is often the religious devotional expression, you see it really in its art forms. You know, you can read about it, or you can read scripture, which is one thing. But when you see how these things are expressed in actual form, you know, whether it's in temple architecture, whether it's in sculpture, whether it's in painting. And the thing is that all this early art was really devotional. It wasn't for sale. You know, our artists weren't trying to make a living off of this, and they usually didn't sign their works. These were devotional, these religious traditions. Art for the sake of art, or for the sake of the divine. Okay, again, have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll hopefully see you back fairly soon.